Yeah, yeah, you're right, mate. You're right. Yeah, yeah.
Mate, all good, yeah? Yeah, you all right?
Yeah, 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 mate. Yeah. Welcome to the first ever Cat and Carrot. Sounds like a pub, doesn't it? The Cat and Carrot.
Yeah. I imagine there's not a pub called that though.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, mate. You're right. There probably
Mate,
is. Yeah, yeah. Can hear
Gap in the mic.
the stream on your
You
end,
all
mate, I
right?
think. Yeah,
Hang
yeah.
on. Okay, I've muted that now.
Awesome
Sorry about
start.
that.
Let's not make that mistake in future.
Well, I tried, but when I went to mute it, the stream hadn't started, so there wasn't the mute button, and then
Yeah, 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 sure. So, my name is Pete Clark, and this is my friend Sam, and we're gonna talk poker. We're gonna be kind of sitting on the sofa, kicking it back. I've actually got a sofa here. I can put my feet up on it right now, and it's gonna be a kind of relaxed show. We're gonna discuss hands, and we're gonna get you plenty of study, hand review, that kind of thing. But we're also just gonna banter and talk and take questions from you guys. If you don't know Sam, he is an English cash game professional. That's what he does. He's English and he plays cash professionally. And yeah, he's a good poker player. And I'd love to hear what he has to say about this A7 of Hearts hand and this student's game. This is a Discord member. Get into the Discord, by the way, when you pick up the silver carrot or golden carrot pass at Carrot Corner. We have a member that sent in a bunch of hands today. He's going to get his database reviewed by us two coaches, cash game players. So, shall we start?
yeah. I presume they well, I mean, you would have said by now, but I assume they wish to remain anonymous. And do we know what or are they going to be in the chat? Maybe they're going to be talking a bit, or
They might be. I'm not actually sure, but they are playing 25 and L. That is the stake.
do we know? Is it Gigi Poker? Presumably.
Yes.
This rendition of your back wall is the best to date, Pete. Yeah, it is better than the solid orange. I agree with that.
I like this color. My wife designed this room and she did a good job. I actually have the poker chips and cards up there. There you go. I've not figured out the webcam yet on this temporary desk. But there you go. There you can kind of see it. I've got the stacks of chips. These are the same cards we play with when we have our Carrot Corner meetups.
Uh, I got some behind me as well.
Oh, there we go. Max Radio says, I am Machina, so these are probably my hands. That's correct. You were the only one that sent hands over, so they are yours.
The cards, yeah.
Nice. A7 of Hearts in Hijack. I put a filter on for something like 18 to 85 big blinds. It's kind of arbitrary.
Okay.
Okay, 7 of Hearts. We've opened a Hijack. We've been cold called by the button. And we have checked on King 310. Our opponent has bet 2.8 BBs, and we have gone for the check raise. Any comments so far?
Do you is there a HUD or anything?
No.
Terrible news. Terrible news. We need to know player type.
Yeah.
Um Perhaps Machina can tell us if they can. But yeah, I mean what has it gone? This is like a half pot bet, so potential fish. Can't go wrong with raise. In theory or exploitatively, it's difficult to just as long as you don't fold, you're fine.
Yep. And this is where it
Uh,
comes down to like styles as well, right? Like if you enjoy playing bigger pots, if you studied check raises and subsequent nodes, you could build a game
mhm.
that check raises more. If you have studied more like probing river, navigating river after flop call lines, then you play more of that weasel style, that blue line style, then you could defer to calling here by default. But you can have a default button here that doesn't involve an RNG. You can just have something you do in this spot and then you can build from there.
Okay. Yep, I agree. He's saying he's reg-ish. Okay. It's hard for a reg to just like stab nothing on this board
Mm.
when they cold call button. So and it's GG. So I'm not sure how much fold equity we have when we do check raise. Um Not that it's a disaster when we're called, but anyway. Yeah, I really don't think we have much fold equity here, but this is basically like we're building the pot in the hope to hit. I feel like we have to hit. I don't think we have much fold equity here at all.
What do you think Villain has mostly?
King X, King Jack, King Queen, some 10x, and some worse flushes, I guess. They're not going to be, I mean, they're not going to be bet calling hands like eights with a heart. I think they're just going to check that a lot on the flop.
Yep. So I can see
maybe
some.
diamond floats, like 5-4 with diamonds, things like that. But they're kind of was yeah.
So it's a bit of a
There's not
weird spot where the opponent doesn't seem to have too much of a flop bet call and then call turn and then bet river range. Like they mostly have like king jack, king queen. They could have tens, I suppose, but people are likely to three bet that pre a lot. They're not gonna have
Yep.
sixes on this node, threes. Who knows if that cold calls kings? No, king ten suited maybe it cold calls, maybe at three bets. It's not many combos. So my thought is that the villain is really in two camps, like king X and draws mostly in this spot, and therefore it should be fairly easy to navigate rivers. But betting turn, I think maybe you do get some fold from like ace ten of clubs at some frequency, but I agree with you that
Possibly.
it's a lowish frequency fold spot. Most people are calling the draw, the flush draw, the queen jack, or the king that they called on the flop, and I think you'll get a few folds from like ace jack, ace queen, and ace ten in this node and queen ten, and that'll be it. But I think there's some call flop fold turn range.
Yeah, there are some. But when we're called on the turn, it's one of those spots that I think when the heart comes, we have so much fold equity. And then if it doesn't come, then we have um, very little bluff equity, if
Mm-hmm.
at all, especially with. But that's the way poker is sometimes. Yeah, three folds. I think probably in theory you want to go bigger on this turn, but again, given that we have ranged villain to be pretty polar here in terms of like having, he's just going to very likely fold or very likely call.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit below. So I don't think we need to go. It's one of those spots where I would just overbet like B120, like my sets,
Yep. Yep.
then like sort of this size B75 with a flush.
Yeah, it's the sort of spot where the opponent's going to be quite inelastic and you just size up your value and size down your bluffs. So I think this is a good sizing for this sort of hand class exploitatively. And there's no way a human will do the solve risk thing of shedding the right frequency at the right sizing, the right bet sizing here. So yeah, agreed. I love an overbet with the set here. I think it's going to get, like you say, if they have ace jack, ace queen, ace 10, they're likely folding if they're folding anyway. And if you overbet, you just make a bit more money from queen jack, flush draws, king X, all these hands that like feel like they have to call.
I suppose I'm thinking about hands we would bluff off here. We would triple off hands like, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just kind of spitballing here,
Mm.
like um hands like ace jack, maybe even ace queen that unblock flush draws, maybe very low flush draws like 5-4, things like that.
Mm.
When the river bricks.
Yeah, it's not obvious to me like what the theory triples are going to be here. Usually, it's what solvers do is they want to avoid the heart of the call fold range, which is going to be stuff containing a queen or a jack. Seems very foldy to me on this node. Like, yeah, king queen will call down at some frequency, but it's also going to be folding by river at some frequency, and queen jack is going to be folding all the time by river. So I think the solver's main bluffs in this spot will be things that stay away from that. It'll be like 4 or 5 and things like this if it ever has that. But then again, does that like 4 or 5 of diamonds, something like that maybe is like a good example of a hand that'll triple pure or whatever. But I don't know. I'm not too bothered. I think we're splitting hairs in EV when we get down to like the exact triple combos in a spot like this.
I'm just looking it up quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening. Um
I feel like
and
6-5 of hearts, stuff like this is going to triple. Like, I don't know, 4 or 5 of hearts, maybe.
I'm going to put P75 on the turn. Cool. And then I'll put the brickiest brick that ever bricked. What should we say? Like deuce of spades?
Mm-hmm.
Is that bricky?
Well, 4 or 5 gets there, then we don't have that. Maybe like 3 of clubs.
Okay. Um, so when that comes, we want to be. Yeah, you're right about ace queen. I mean, we don't have too much of it here. So yeah, there is some queen jack off. Um, okay. Not too much. Hands like ace 8 of diamonds.
Yep.
Basically, the backdoor
Yep.
flushes that whiffed.
The stuff that avoids the draws that we're calling all the way along for the most part, probably.
Yeah, okay, I was wrong about that. But then actually, Solver doesn't really have any like ace queen or ace jack in this line at all.
No.
Okay.
Does Queen Jack give up river if you get there with that, like Queen Jack of clubs or
Queen
something?
Jack, no, no. Queen Jack of clubs is pure jamming,
Yeah. Okay.
as is Queen Jack of spades. So the
Hmm.
Queen Jack that unblocks the flush draws basically, but even the other two suited combos are doing it most of the time. It's
Hmm.
the same.
Hmm.
Queen Jack off. It's very thin, but it's only the Diamond Jack, the Diamond Heart combos that check with
Cool.
both. So.
Cool. So you have to block the folding range pretty hard to be in the pure give up part of the range. Okay. Ace Jack offsuit here. Under the gun open, small blind call, and we go for complete with this hand.
Probably just squeezing this pure. I think you're going to get a lot of fold equity here.
Is your feeling that under the gun or hijack's going to under four bet this node and small blind slightly a fish? Is that this is basically
I think we got loads of fold equity versus small blind, and yes, I do think they're going to under four bet a hell of a lot.
so an
Um,
overperforming squeeze in real life then?
yeah, it's a mix, as I thought pre. Um, there needs to be four bets from King nine, King 10, Ace 10, sevens, eights, nines, tens, ace five at some frequency from under the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be back raises with jacks, ace king from small blind, sixes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen.
Yep.
Um, However, actually, having said that, there's 85% folds according to this sim from the small blind if under the gun or MP folds. So they're probably underfolding because they're probably going to call those pocket pairs more than a sliver, which is what Solver does. But still, we're in good shape.
Yeah, and if we do play against small blind's range, like we're very happy. They don't have ace queen, ace king very often. If we play against under the guns range, we're less happy. But if under the guns under four betting, that's likely to swing EV massively here. And small blind then playing badly after the flop from out of position. I'm not so bothered if they come along in this spot. I don't think small blind slightly underfolding here by 10-15% is going to hurt our EV. And I think under the gun not four betting enough is really going to help our EV. So yeah, I can see squeeze overperforming a bit here when you've got the lightly fish just calling there and just going for that action pure. I think at 25 and L, you're always just wanting to go down the road that nets the most money, and the more of those patterns you learn as like habitual things you just do, the higher your win rate in a game like this.
Mhm.
So we do call, which I don't think is a disaster. Ace King 3, we check, it checks through recreational checks. In my mind, regs are just not bluffing off in here at all. If they're going to bluff, they're going to bluff flop, and they're going to just have a merged range here. And it's blood from a stone, in my mind, this spot against most 25 and L regs, unless they just have top pair or king queen, in which case they'll call one off anyway. So I'm always in the betting camp here. Solver might do either. I'm not checking this spot. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. My default multi-way is, well, if I'm pre-flop raiser, my default multi-way, obviously it depends on some things, but if I have top pair, I'm just going to bet. Um, if I have top pair minimum, my whole shtick is that um, I'm going to give like the most binary way I think about it. Obviously, there is some elasticity, but I would, I think my hand in those situations is high EV when it bets and gets called, compared to when I check and call a bet.
Yep.
So when we check call, they're uncapped. When we bet call, when we bet and they call, they're just more capped and multi-way. I think that works best.
Yep. So we go for kind of large here, which I think is fine. I'm okay with the sizing. I think there'll be some elasticity here from the King X region and Big Blind's range, but I'm all right with
Yeah, I
this.
probably go half pot
Yeah.
max.
You go half pot here. Yeah.
Yeah, or third, but
Mm-hmm.
depends.
Yep. I think investment ceiling is a big part of this too, right? Because like how big is the eventual, I would say this to my students, like how big's the eventual pot you want to play with Ace Jack? And it's not massive. It's just that you want some money going in now always, and then you want a bit more going in the river. You're not really trying to build a giant pot by the river. You're not likely to overbet the river unless filling in the small blinds like a huge station or something. So I like the idea of getting a call from hands you crush, like Queen Jack or Ace Jack, or King Queen or King Jack or something like that, or maybe even like a reg that's not really knowing what's going on, flicking in a call with tens here at some frequency. I like a smaller bet on turn here. I think it's likely to perform better. Yeah. and we get called by the reg and we go for the block on the river.
Yeah, it's probably the wrong way
Seems
around.
mm,
I would go bigger now.
right. So you want to go bigger on, you want to go smaller on turn to just catch more hands that want to call one, and then bigger now that you've
Not been raised.
not been raised. Mm-hmm.
It's pretty bricky. So I don't see the point in betting small in terms of we're not going to get bluff raised enough. Yeah, I would go like B60, B70,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Targeting the ace five, targeting the king queen.
He's like capped at ace 10, and if he's got 7-6 or ace 7, GG.
Yeah. So the idea is if you're almost always winning, generally it's correct to bet an amount that nets you more money when called rather than an amount that would rely on being raised at some frequency to make money. Villain calls with king queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like a bet size that is like specifically wanting that kind of hand to call, but
yeah.
I think we could just net a bit more, like you just said.
There might also be like a phenomenon here where by going bigger on turn, you've already moved the reg here, 25 and L reg away from like a king at some frequency and like more towards an ace than normal than if you'd gone smaller on turn. So then you go bigger on river if their ranges. If their landing range on river is more ace 10, ace 9, ace 5, it makes sense to size up more and not care so much about the king queen.
Yeah, B75, B75.
Mm-hmm. Those small things there. I don't hate that hand at all, but I think there are a few little improvements possible. Aces. Let's start scoring hands out of 10, guys, on cat and carrot. We need to get into the habit of scoring hands. So score this. Okay.
7.
Okay. Aces min open call for weight. We bet flop.
This is the exact spot I'm talking about. And people fast play so much multi-way. I haven't studied multi-way and solvers. Maybe you're meant to fast play more. I don't know. But everyone's just so face up. So I hate the idea of check calling here personally. I'm being a bit emotional there. I know I shouldn't be, but yeah, someone has two pair or a set, you're gonna know about it now, especially on this board.
Also, if you check call this spot, all of the hands that bet that you beat are calling anyway. So if villain bets king queen, they're calling king queen. The villain bets 10-9 or king 10, they're calling those hands. The villain bets ace queen, they're calling ace queen, right? So there's almost no hand here that you make any money from by checking that you don't make money from by betting. And if you contrast that to like being in the big blind heads up and checking to the button rather than just donk leading for 2/3 pot, you're making money from loads of the bottom of their range that's just c-betting there. That's not the case here. So definitely a fast play spot exploitatively. I think in theory, the main thing I've seen from like simple three-way and programs like that is that you should actually bet more for like value on the flop, and denial's a really big thing. You know, like if 3 different people have a different pocket pair against you, that's 6 outs now. You know, it does start to stack up. So getting those folds becomes a bit more valuable. Of course. So it get called in 2 spots here. Get the kind of dream of turn cards ish. Yeah, I mean, I'm still very happy to see this card compared to most others. Yeah. I'm betting again. Let's see what we do. We check. I don't like that for the same reasons that we spoke about on flop. That I think you still got a pile of equity. You're relying on one player bluffing now. I think you just need to be greedy here and just make sure money goes in against open ender, queen X, jack X flush draw. Right.
Yeah. Go half pot. So
I would go bigger.
I think. Yeah, I can see that actually. Yeah.
Because there's quite a lot of, if we're just going to take a really exploitative lens here, there's quite a lot of inelastic hands, right? Like just king 10s, 10-9s, and hearts, and queen X.
Queen 8. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think I want to raise as played.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for anyone to have a 4.
How do we lose?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the river, but I'll stop talking on that. Yeah, I mean, we're even beating Queen Jack now, so if that was slow play.
Yep. I'm on board with raise. I think it's easy to look at this through too much of a vague, blurry lens and just be like, oh, it's quite a lot of money going in now. I have one pair and maybe not get to the detail of the spot. Like this happens a lot in students' games where if they focused a bit more, like if they sort of squinted their eyes and focused on the ranges in front of them here, they'd realize how good their hand was, but they don't. They just sort of see a bunch of action and they're like, it's one pair, it's multi-way, and they make a
Mhm.
vague decision about their hand and proceed with a bit too much trepidation in spots like
Yeah,
this.
yeah. When I'm in these spots, I'm just like, tell me what you have.
Mm-hmm. But also primarily getting value at the same time, and then yeah,
Horrible river.
yep, I'm on board with
I think
check.
people are gonna donk a lot as well. So like the big blind will donk a lot if he has a jack. So I think it's just a case of whether we're beating this guy here. Does seem fishy given his sizings and the fact that he's got a broken stack. So um, depending what size he goes here, considering a raise. Okay. All right. As played, it's probably fine to check the river on this card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think someone has a jack here quite a lot. Like the fishy guy can just have a jack randomly and be merging turn. This player can check it on the river, but not loads.
Mm.
You could try like a lead for like some small
Yeah.
token pathway to a check type lead in spots like this. Like I'm a fan of sort of B10s, B20s in some spots where you can greedily net a bunch of money against one part of the range quite safely. Especially if you're not going to get bluffed often by when you check anyway, and presumably on this river you're just not getting bluffed by villain four very often at all. Um,
Yeah. I expect to win here loads now.
yep.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Give it a score.
5.
Yeah, I think the turn check is quite a.
20. No, no, 5 out of 10.
I think the turn check's quite a big mistake. Yeah. King 10, cut off button. Thank you for
Okay.
the Prime, Rupert. I haven't seen anyone subscribe with Prime for ages on Twitch. Not been streaming that much. We do have another show tomorrow morning, by the way. Shu is going to learn the style of the polar bear tomorrow morning
Okay.
at 8 o'clock.
What does the polar bear do? Or would you not want to reveal that yet?
Polar ranges, mate. Checks a lot and plays big bets from the flop, polar style. All right, so 2.8 BBs. What are your thoughts on these flop spots? Because this is very awkward, right? When you get cold called by an imposition player. There's a lot of these cold call spots coming up here for some reason. Must be the pot size we're looking at. And we just whiff and we're out of position with two kind of bad cards. How do you play these spots? Do you just see bet a lot and treat them like they've got too wide a range? Do you play range check? Does it depend on your opponent? How do you approach a spot like this?
100% depends on the opponent. Range checking against regs.
Yep.
And then check folding this hand against a reg. Against a fish, it depends. It depends how spewy and how passive or how passive they are. I tend to break up fish into two camps now, spewy and passive. So, and it's important not to confuse, like, say you have like a 52-3,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, they're playing a lot of hands, but it's important to not class them as aggressive in any way.
Mm-hmm.
They just, in fact, they're like really, really passive, obviously. Um, so I wouldn't slow play against those kind of guys if I have value. Yeah, with trash here, if they're really passive, they're probably going to allow me. They're probably not going to bet the flop enough. They're not going to bluff enough on the flop when we check. So we're going to see a turn too often. So against a passive fish, just going to check a lot
Mm-hmm.
with trash and then try and hit some equity or just start bluffing probably.
Yep.
Um, and against a really spewy, uh, aggressive fish, it's kind of tricky. Probably just check folding, to be honest, with this kind of hand.
Yep.
So checking, and then if they bet really small, I might like just float this with an over and like some backdoors, backdoor straight. But yeah. What about you?
Um, So I think I really like the idea of delaying the aggression in spots like this out of position when you have absolutely nothing and your hand can't materialize into the nuts when your opponent is placid or whalish aggro. Because betting into the latter type, the whalish aggro, it's just you're just not going to be getting a lot of fold equity here. You're going to get raised a bunch. It's just probably not going to get through. often enough to make it better than check. And then against the passive, I was talking about this in a video I recorded that's coming out next week, which is about playing a blue line strategy and playing like the Weasel, which is like one of my favorite player styles. But the Weasel, you're basically just like finding out what's going on before you pay any rake or commit any money or do anything. So you're just kind of like, well, if it's not that great to invest, I'll just check. And then there'll be later branches where I do want to invest and I know it's winning to invest. So I like check here against the passive. If there's a player I'd bet against, who would I bet this hand against? I don't actually know if there's a player I would bet against here. Like, if they're really fit or fold, I'd rather just delay this spot with absolutely nothing. So I don't even know if there's any villain I would bet this hand against, to be honest.
I think I would like ultra nits.
Mm.
It's like the same kind of spot where you have like you're in the small blind and then you have the big blind who has a V pip of like 6.
He just has nines and you just barrel them off nines.
Well, you just like you open so wide, right? And they just because you know they're going to fold
Yeah,
like just ridiculous amount. So if fold equity is absolutely through the roof,
sure.
then I would just bet something minuscule.
Mm. Yep, fair enough. Okay, I think we've got to check here. I don't think there's any way I'm
Yeah.
barreling this particular combo out of position. Out of position, you have a
Mm.
lot less fold equity. It's theoretically going to drive up your standards for what you need to bluff with. So I would like to see a check here. I don't know about you, but I'm not
Yeah, I'm
really
check.
liking this spot. Okay.
I'll check any sort of paired card. Maybe not the deuce though, because it's a bit irrelevant. Oh
Yeah.
boy. No, what we he has to be floating trash now. The on the flop for us to like have much fold equity here with this size.
And if we go bigger, like we just, I still think there's just too many hands in villain's range that are really good or calling and winning one way or another or stationing. There's just too many ways against the 62 big blind stack. You get called here, and it's the same in theory. You're at a deficit in fold equity, like you're not getting enough to bet trash. And so this hand is bordering on trash, and it does block some folds like 10-9 and Jack 10 of hearts and stuff like that. So I would I would definitely recommend out of position. You just build a framework where you check the bottom, you bluff your equity, and you bet some value and check raise some value, and that's like the blueprint of your game.
Mm.
In position, these kind of plays are a lot better. They're a lot better. Fold equity's higher, and you just have a more favorable game tree thereafter. The thing about out of position as well is like if you don't have that compensatory equity, money's just going into what's going to be like a shitty game tree for you on the river, basically. It's just going to be like a mess situation for the out of position player. But the ace comes, and we've just bet twice, and they do have ace X of clubs here, and they do have some queen, and they have some underpair as well, and some other misdraw type thing sometimes. How good is fold equity on this river?
Um, I get to this point sometimes and I'm like, what do I want them to fold?
Yep.
I'll just size accordingly. Um, so we don't have any fold equity against the queen, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Better. Um, and most likely an ace as well, although they shouldn't have too much ace X. So I think it's a case where you could probably just be 75 and hope they fold an 8 or worse.
Yep.
Depends how sticker they are, already. You don't have to overbet or anything like that to get them to fold those hands.
I think
If you want,
overbet's actually quite bad here because it just overpays against the Queen X region and the slow play region and the odd
yeah,
ace X that probably calls after hitting an ace on the river most of the time. Whereas if you
yeah,
even if you go like 1560 here, right, like 15.6, it's less. It's like a B66 or B60, I guess, right? Like if you go that sizing or you go 17, it's like a bit more. And then a lot of time the human brain doesn't process exactly what the sizing is. It just sees a bet and it clumps it into a bucket. And if it puts it in the bucket of like normal bet, maybe nines is just a fold now on the ace river facing a third barrel and up to a normal bet, right? So I think this is where when you've got it here, like when you've got pocket eights here, you want to go massive and or check raise even if you think a queen's going to bet and bet call, but probably massive is good. And then if you have a bluff, it just can't be the case that a really big bet's good with a bluff here. So in real life, you do need to think about elasticity a lot more, and you need to not just stop at what's the sizing for my toolkit. You need to also think, and how do I unbalance that to gain EV?
Fair. We give up. There is actually a world where we win sometimes, but I don't think that's enough. There's enough for us to check.
But there shouldn't be because of River Blunder theorem, Sam.
Right? There's oceans of that.
Yep. This fish hasn't done grade 2 carrot poker school if he rolls 10-9 here. I'm going to predict that villain has 9 of diamonds, 9 of clubs.
Pocket fours.
Wow. Ace 8. I was closer. What are you going to give this hand?
Um, I'd have to know. Sometimes it's difficult to mark because I'd have to know the thought process behind it. Because there might be some good points within there. But just on paper, another five. I need to go through on the river, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the river you want to bluff, and I think your turn game needs a bit of organization there. Like out of position, just be a bit fussier. In position, sure, you can do more things like this, but this is a tighter range spot where you've bet kind of like your flop bet here is going to clear out a lot of the shrapnel from villain's range already. And then you're going to end up on the turn without like an abundance of fold equity, no bailout equity, and no position. Probably not enough good stuff to be betting. Standards.
Tonic Nabiganach.
That's a weird
Seven.
word, mate. You can't say that.
Sorry. Uh, is B33 also a viable option just to target those below queen pairs? I don't think so. I think B33 is good if you want them to fold like a misdraw or something. I can see people side calling like pocket fours and stuff for a block. What do you think?
Um, yeah, I think it's the block sizing is good in spots where there are loads of misdraws or loads of ace high or king high that's just like made it to the spot and like not really thinking of itself as a bluff catcher and shrug folding. The problem here is it's like button versus cutoff, and yes, it's a fish, but you've given them a good chance to fold a gutter by now. Like they might not fold Jack 10, 10, 9, but they will pretty often by now. There's not a ton of that, and then there's not a load of non-ace X missed flush draw here either, so you're then kind of hoping they fold like 9s or 7s or something to that size, and as you say, I think it just gets like crying called a bit too often by a recreational at these stakes.
I think recreationals are pretty sticky with like tenuous draws at times. I think you can get fish that are just like have a whiff of a draw.
Sure. It goes the
Max,
other way though, where they don't know, like they don't understand future fold equity or implied odds. So sometimes they're just like, I'm not getting the price as well. So I think there's both types.
fair. Max says he was floating super wide and overfolding turn. Yeah, but is he overfolding this turn? I mean,
Also, how do you get that read? That's like a very specific read. Very convenient. You have exactly that read here, Max. Very convenient, I would say. In fact, this is bullshit. You didn't have that read, you liar. There, I've gone there, Sam. I've accused him of lying to justify his play. You want to defend him?
no, because I can't read minds.
Oh, okay then. I guess I win.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to look something up there. But all right.
Next hand. Just kidding,
All
Max.
right.
Just kidding. There's no delay, by the way. Correct. No delay for these streams. Even though we're playing poker in real time. So I'm going to open this spot in the cutoff on this new Carrot Corner poker client. That's not a thing, by the way. YouTube, calm down. That's not a thing. We're training site.
I don't see any cards.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, there we go. Cards. We are indeed going to do more episodes like this, Jim. We are indeed. What I'm trying to say, says TNRG, that there are better King 10 combos to barrel if we want to barrel King 10. I'd rather just solve the spot in EV rather than like start with the premise that we want to barrel King 10. But sure. 5-4. Open call. Okay with this?
I don't mind.
Yep. I think bet is good.
Yeah.
Seems good. You're going to clear out some stuff here.
Maybe like 10-8, things like that.
6s.
Yeah.
9s. 7s. Things like that. A lot of calls again, though. A lot of the hands that call the flop here are going to call the turn. A nifty trick in this situation is to go smaller on turn and then bet river, because you're so often going to get raised by 2 pair plus if you go smaller on turn here. And you're going to get a lot of like pair plus draw just like tagging along to river to then fold. So could be an inflection point exploitatively where you go like half pot turn bet river. You can do stuff like this at low stakes, right? You can make up your own custom line. So it's an option.
He'll also, yeah, he'll have a load of what I call PPDs, pair plus draws.
Mhm.
Queen 9, 10 9, Jack 10, King Jack. You know, pair plus straight draw basically.
Mhm.
Um, all in. No. Yeah, I think I do want to bluff.
I definitely want to bluff.
I think I actually don't mind all in here, actually.
You
Yeah.
might get some 2 pair to fold sometimes, and all the 1 pair is going to fold at high frequency. If you run into like ace jack or jack 9, that sucks, and you will at some frequency, but not loads. Do you think like is the utility in going 60 instead of all in, or do you feel like all in does actually drive up the fold equity a lot further?
Probably not actually. I think you're right. I'm not sure. No, I think jam. I think jam. Um, are we allowed to bluff this hand in theory?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Let's have a quick look.
Like it's unblocking so much of the pair plus draw stuff. It's not blocking any folds because villain doesn't get to the spot with the 5 or 4 of spades and then fold. So it looks like a pure one to me.
Fairs, fairs. Right, let's have a look. Deuce, Queen, 10, check, 30. I mean, I'm solving this for heads up,
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if they're a reg or not, do we?
Don't think so.
Okay. Cool there, little 7 ball. Check. Okay, so the solver is not going all in, but likes to be 150 a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, 5 4's in there at some frequency.
Is it ever giving up this combo?
There's no pure give up at all.
As in, like, it's not mixing give up though. This combo,
Oh yeah, it's mixing that. Oh, sorry, yeah,
right?
yeah, sorry. Is it ever pure giving up? Yeah, it's mixed check and bet.
Mm-hmm. So
Uh,
B150, because in theory there's going to be some slow play going on from ace jack
yeah.
and things like that, right? Like it's not always going to raise the B75 because the B75 in range is getting a bit more polar now. It's going to slow play sometimes, I would think.
The hands that want to the hands that want to bluff are ones that sort of block pairs and straights, basically. So like Jack 7,
Mm-hmm.
this one. Oh no, Jack 8, Jack 9, pure.
Yeah. So it cares a lot about blocking straights. I wouldn't care so much about blocking straights because
Yeah.
I don't think straights are a big part of range in the spot at all. I think they're unlikely.
Yeah.
We go 20.
This
You go huge, sure.
this is getting called like so much, I think. Too much. Yeah, okay. I mean, he's meant to mix those pair plus draws, but are they doing that? Perhaps not. Pete, you stop talking.
Yeah, I'm just watching, just letting the hand unfold, letting it unfurl. King Queen, run into King Queen.
Fuck. All right. I would give that 6.
Mm-hmm. So river's kind of interesting from a range construction because like, what is your value range on the river here? Like, what kind of hands do you normally value betting? I think the answer is 2 pairs straights
That's well, it
sets.
depends. Yeah, okay. Yeah, value betting to to differing sizes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have like ace king that you can block. Like maybe you just have like a bunch of different sizes here, but mostly big. I would think. I think most of your value bets are bigger here, and so a lot of your bluffs should be theoretically bigger here.
Ace king checks in theory. Anything better than queen 10
Mm-hmm.
bets for that. Oh, actually, queens is mixing. Man.
Queen's is blocking the some of the calls and unblocking the more
Yeah.
polar parts of the range. So you see that a lot. The polarizing blockers. Grade 3 carrot poker school. No, grade 2, I think actually. One of the more advanced things in grade two. Pretty sure
Actually,
it's
King
grade two.
10 as well. So it's basically King Queen.
What does King Queen do if you shove, by the way?
Um,
Or does it play
well,
shove? It doesn't play shove, it just plays
it doesn't play
B150.
shove.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
it's telling me it's not. Doesn't like it. But King Queen to B150, King Queen is mixing.
Oh really? Wow.
The only pure call is Jacks, which and some combos of Jacks jams.
Yeah, which is not really going to be here so much, I don't think, anyway, in this spot.
No,
Okay.
and Ace Jack obviously rejams.
All right.
But other than that, everything else is mixing.
All right. 5 out of 10 it is. Moving on to 10-9 in the big blind. We go for a peel here. We check call the flop. I think raise and call are both okay here. As the c-bet sizing gets bigger, I'm more inclined to call against the 25 and L pool. I think half pot, though, still usually falls under the realms of like out of control, too much stuff in it. For half pot, I think when you start going up to like 3/4, it becomes a bit more equity driven. What's your read?
Yep. Exactly the same. Much lower raise frequency versus bigger sizes. But I mean, there is in theory as well, right?
Mhm.
But very much so. Um, in practice as well.
And
Yeah.
this is an interesting turn spot.
Okay. Oh no, we got straight. Right. Okay. So you're wondering whether to lead or not?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I don't think this is a thought that crosses many people's mind at these stakes, but you have to ask yourself, how merged, condensed is villain's range now compared to before? And I think the answer is very, because previously they were, if they were to bet the turn here on a brick, right, they would be saying they have king queen, ace queen, and bluffs, and they'd have loads of gutters that were betting and stuff like that, and going for check call with a good hand is defensible, or check raise. But now, so many of the hands that they would have bet for value on a brick turn are now just checking back like very quickly and automatically and not really thinking. And I'm not convinced that they find as many bluffs now. It's much harder to find bluffs on this card than it is on a brick turn where you've got like a shower of gut shots. Like, what do you actually bluff here? You bluff like king 10, sure. You bluff some combo with the ace of spades in it, like ace 5 with the ace of spades and stuff. But these are also hands, again, that are likely to call if you lead. So it's another one of these spots for me where, like, in real life, as much as it's a bit of a weird thing to do in theory, like betting the turn might just perform better here. Even betting the turn smallish might perform better than checking here.
Yeah. So what we're saying is that betting frequency, when we check, their betting frequency is going to be too low, right?
Yep.
They're certainly going to bluff.
Yep.
They're meant to be bluffing like 10-5 of hearts.
Yep.
I know that's better, but well, firstly, you can lead if you want. That's not a problem in theoretically. So you're not doing anything. So you're not losing an EV there, and it is a small size.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, if we have a value hand, we're ahead of his range a lot of the time. He's not going to bet often enough. I hate the idea, and because he's not going to bet often enough and bluff enough, that makes check raise worse than theory, I think. So lead is the only play here.
Yep.
And then if in theory they want the solver wants us to lead small when we do lead, when we have a good hand, I want to increase the size.
Yep. For the same reasons that if you lead small, they're not going to find the bluff raises, just as they're not going to find them against check. So
So
we have one of these spots where check raising and check calling are both bad ways to get value. And so by a process of elimination, you can almost just tell yourself to lead, and it can't be bad because the other two lines are just not appetizing in this spot. But we're not going to lead here because it's just hard to wake up enough to jolt yourself awake enough to even consider it, right?
two things are really important. One is to realize just how good your hand is. Obviously, it's great, relatively speaking. In absolute terms, sorry, to have a straight, but also relatively as well. Like I know it's not a flush, but it's really important to know that a straight is fucking great here. And the second thing is to not care about being balanced, which we talked about a bit last week.
Yeah.
Do not give a shit about oh, but if I do this, I have to like you don't want to sit in this spot and think, but what would my bluff lead to be? Like it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Think
Yeah.
about that later.
It's a good way to like destroy your EV is to wonder about some hypothetical and try and, make it symmetrical to what you're doing here, balance it. Just doesn't make sense. Yep. Okay, so villain checks back somewhat predictably, and you're gonna have to bet the river now, and you're gonna have to think of a sizing. Because again, if you check here, the hands that value bet are not likely to call a check raise in my mind because they're not that good because people are bad at slow playing turn with like two pair or something. And if you check here, I don't even think like, well, there is the bet check bet that can happen, and yeah, there will be some amount of that going on. Like you could maybe argue like if villains over invested flop heavily and has too much king five and ace four here, the check isn't too bad. The problem with check is there's just a ton of queen x and jack x here. There's just an absolute ton of it combinatorically, and you make nothing from a lot of it when you check. A queen might go for a value bet though. Then there's all this nines, jack x, 8x. Yeah, I'm leaning bet, but
I just don't think they'll bluff enough even in bet check bet on this
Mhm.
kind of run out.
Yep.
I think it's very easy for villain to think, oh, everything that villain was drawing towards has got there, or they have some two pairs now and stuff like that. So they just kind of give up.
Yep.
So I wouldn't go too big here. I wouldn't like over bet, unfortunately. I would just be 75 by default. But I could be talked out of that.
Mm. Yeah, I don't think it's an appetizing spot for people to bluff catch and overbet either. Like in real life at 25 and L. Like clearly your hand's good enough equity wise to go 24, as Jim's saying. I'm just not sure it's best because like this is a spot where if I had a bluff, I'd be really, really happy about overbetting. I'd feel like my fold equity was like soaring with an overbet here if I bluffed. I'd feel like it's just
Yeah, overbet like pocket fours.
yep. In real life, most of their range is Jack X and worse, like let's be honest, and some Queen X. Some Queen X, but even King Queen might bet turn sometimes. People are like kind of good at just always betting top pair in the turn, some people. So yeah, I'm thinking like big but not overbet is my line as well. I think there are lines where overbet just like performs too well for fold equity. I quite like this sizing. Okay.
Nice. So what? So that was B75, something like that. I
That
haven't
was like
seen the.
B80. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
How are you scoring this, Sam?
Oh, a solid 8.
Yeah. Improve by leading turn. Look out for spots that are unconventional where you can lead. Don't press the check button because the last guy was the better of the previous street. Usually that's right, but there are spots where it's really wrong. And if
Yeah.
donk betting is optional in theory, that doesn't mean that it's just some fringe line that you don't have to worry about. It means that it wouldn't take that many real life factors to make it the best line. And so it's worthy of consideration. So it might even be a worthwhile exercise, guys, going through a solver and looking at all the spots where donk betting is like kind of a thing and gains and it is optional, and then like figuring out where it gains CP. It's going to be when they're overly passive and just overly cagey and mergy and condensed. Jim says, I don't like 75 because they check back a lot of Queen X, Kings, Aces stuff. They won't check back turn to fold even if it's big. Yeah, I guess I was thinking that. I think you're right, actually, that they do check back Kings and stuff like that. If they were under the gun, that would be a bigger part of their range. When they're button, it's quite diluted by just like the random offsuit combos of like King Jack and stuff like that. But yeah, that is a part of their range. Will they call 24 with it? See, in my mind, it's such an easy fold with like aces. Like if I've red aces here and someone bets 24 here, like maybe I'm projecting. I'm just like, that's such an easy fold, but maybe this pool, there is more stationing than I'm giving them credit for. I think that's a good point, Sam. What do you think? Sam?
Sorry, what was I think you said that, and that was a good point.
Yeah, what do you think? Do you think it's a good point?
I'm just wondering whether they do check back those hands enough. Um, I don't know the answer there, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with that. If that is true, then that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'll say.
Okay, 8-9 off. I think I just fold pre here. And this hand does really badly in this spot, like you're right.
It's probably a fish in the
Maybe if
small
this is a
blind.
fish, it's okay. Yeah.
It's only 2x, so
I think we as humans overestimate how well we do with hands like this. Like if you think about it, right? You're out of position to button. There are two players in the pot, and you have an offsuit 8 and a 9. Like how often do you win this pot? Like very rarely. And then how often are you on the right end of some implied odds thing? Like pretty rarely as well. I wonder like about the pot entitlement here and whether it's actually worse than we think.
Um, I don't think so. It's a cool pre-flop in theory to 2x opens at 25 an hour rate.
After small blind calls.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
You calling like 9-7 off, 7-5 off, 6-4 off, and 8-6 off for a mix for whatever reason.
Okay.
5-3 off. So you can go wider than you think. You're meant to
Mm,
call 7-3 suited. It's because it's 2x.
mm,
Expect that I can't go any. Oh yeah, I expect it when it's 2.5x. It's significantly more folding.
fair enough. In that case, I'm definitely calling whenever villain 3 is weak, and that's going to be most of the time. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
you fold all those like offsuit connectors,
Hmm.
and like you don't call king nine off or queen nine off.
Yeah.
You mix raise and fold.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 6 of spades after check, check, check. What are your thoughts on this situation where buttons checked and small blind is checked twice at 25 and L? Like, what do you think's going on here?
Um, they're just so incredibly capped that I'm just going to start bluffing now.
Hmm.
The only player that might have six is the button, but even then, I think they're going to bet that at some frequency on the flop for a small size.
Hmm.
Why not? Denial, etc. So yeah, I think we can just double barrel now a lot of the time.
So it's one of these spots that I struggle. I've always struggled with this spot psychologically because it's such a egregious thing to do in theory, like to just take an 8 and a 9 and just start blasting it like into two
Can
ranges. It's so egregious, right? And it's every
Yeah.
fiber of like my theory being is like don't bet the turn. But if you actually think about what their ranges are here, small blind just checked non-procedurally. So they have a king or a six very rarely. The way people play this spot's very transparent. They have some pocket pairs and then they have ace high in air, and that's their range. And you
Yeah.
can get them off most of that by the river most of the time. Button again has similar stuff like ace high, air, under pairs. And if you just go bet bet, you feel stupid because you know how wide your range is here and you know you have an 8 and a 9 and you're clearly over bluffing the minute you even consider bluffing air. You're just wildly over bluffing. And it's hard to wrap your head around the fact that that isn't what matters to your EV. What matters to your EV is how often you get called. And it's very possible for you to be playing like an absolute goofball in a spot, taking a clearly over bluffing line, knowing you're over bluffing, but your opponents are just looking at their cards and playing their cards because it's 25 and 0.
Yeah, and especially if this is Russian cash as well, they're just going to move on.
Right. It's an easier thing to get away with at Russian cash for sure because people are just like, meh. I check back ace 10 and then I don't think. So
Yeah.
B75 here to me looks like it would just net a bunch of folds immediately and then like also on river as well. If you like pot river after doing that, it's going to be okay. Or you could go smaller and then bet river bigger, I suppose. So it's hard to critique a hand where a man calls 8 9 off out of the big blind and then just folds on the turn on three
We're a man.
king 6 6. But
We're a man.
yeah, it's Max. Max is is that his name? I think it's Max.
Max.
Yeah,
Maximum radio said.
there you go.
These are rated. Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter either way, to be honest, because the main points are what Pete said, basically.
It's just so gross to do it. Like I end up not doing this because I feel too self-conscious, even though it's like silly to think that way. Maybe when you're streaming it's
I think
different,
it's
right?
silly at all. I don't think it's silly because it's the lay of the land. It's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's silly compared to a soul right. It just comes back to that thing, doesn't it? Where it's like I'm not saying you're saying this, but I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking about this idea where people just say, oh, it's not real poker, is it? It's just not poker
Mm-hmm.
in certain spots. And it's like, well, how it is. It is like what is real poker?
Yeah.
Like people just
Yeah.
I don't know, like there's so many different strategies for like different sites, different pools, different stakes,
Mm-hmm.
playing online, playing live, against different
Yeah.
player types. Like it's so diverse. Like it's kind of it's absurd that you can just that they're so capped there that you can just bet and make way more money than you should be allowed theoretically.
Mhm.
Still real poker, like in that vacuum.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? You hear people say like, well, GTO is not real, like this is silly, this isn't what happens in real poker, and then you're like, oh yeah, because real poker is like you get to do this. Real poker is so much more absurd and stupid than GTO. You hear people say that GTO is stupid and absurd, but it's actually like the way humans play that's absurd. It's just normalized to you if you play in a live card room and you see it every day.
Mhm.
What's
True.
what like blows my mind is right, like imagine this hand at like the 1-3 table, right?
Yeah.
And it's like everybody is just checking their hand to showdown and then seeing
Oh
who
my
has a
God.
jack and who has a queen, right? And the
It's
minute
not even
someone bets, they just clean up.
it may honestly like yeah, you're right. If you get the amount of times you play live and then everyone just like snap checks the showdown and then they go, I've got a four, and
Yep.
the other guy goes, I've got a five, and they like laugh between each other, like they become like best mates and all
Yeah.
that. And it's just like if it's just leaves so much money on the table. It's ridiculous. You
Yep.
just have to like they will fold at this at the faintest movement,
Yep.
and it's just up to you whether you want to grab that EV.
Yeah. It's absolutely wild. But you see all these people just playing this communally accepted strategy that's bad for everyone.
The slot machine.
Yeah. But it's not bad for everyone anymore because like it's almost like you're playing, what's that game? Split or steal? Like, you know, like golden balls,
Oh right, yeah,
where you can split or you can steal. And they're
yeah,
all just like split all the time. And the guy that steals
yeah,
just wins all the EV, but no one steals.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing is here, when you put steel, they don't even show their ball. They just leave the room.
Yeah.
They just okay, just have it. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stressful.
Okay, so we called 6-7 against hijack. 6-7. You know the whole thing the kids
Uh,
say with the 6-7. Right? You don't do that. No. Too old for
awesome.
that. Yeah. Okay.
Not gonna buff there. Yep. Almost very disappointed that seven came.
Yeah, I think we're done here. Okay.
Goodness me, what's this man over betting there? A triple Broadway multi-way.
King 10.
Yeah.
I would fold here.
Old, yeah. What did we open? 2.5.
2.
Okay. Okay, let's have a look. Um, cut off, say 10. Yeah, very much. I'm just folding any kind of mix here.
Yep. So this is something I was talking about in the video I recorded this morning as well, where how are you gonna do post flop before you've studied these spots? Like, let's face it, most people don't spend a lot of time facing in position C bet in 3-bet pot, even though they should. It's just not a spot people spend a lot of time on. And I think this is a spot that's highly contingent on like how well you understand it. So if you've studied how to face small range bet in 3-bet pots, and moreover how to exploit small range bet in 3-bet pots, I think you can make calls like this defensively. But
Yeah.
if you're playing on autopilot in a high rate game and you don't know what you're doing, the small range bet strategy will just kill you. It will actually
Mhm.
kill you if you play on instinct here. And what you don't want to do is be a sheep in a den of lions. You don't want to be like, I'm gonna call because like the chart says it's not too bad, and then you don't know what you're doing post flop, and it just so happens that the pool's most common brain dead strategy is the very thing that exploits your passivity in a 3-bet pot. And that's the mistake I see time and time again. People calling 3-bets, referring to GTO Wizard and saying, look, it's a mix, it's fine, but they've got no
Yeah.
idea how to play post flop, and moreover, they're playing badly against the pool's default strat.
Yeah, I mean, the GTO Wizard is, or the Solver is, it's assuming you know how to play post flop as well with those hands, right?
Or it's assuming that neither player has an edge over the other, but actually in real life, the guy that just brain dead bets third pot has an edge over the guy that plays really passively and really fair or fold. That's just the way it goes. He's playing rock, you're playing scissors, so don't enter into that matchup when you're going to play scissors against rock. Like you've got to think about what the matchup of strategies is after the flop. How are you actually playing after you defend here? How are they playing? How does that go? What are they doing? Okay, they're betting small all the time. What should you do? You should raise a bunch. You should call everything. You should float. You should barrel when checked to. Are you doing that? No. Then don't call pre until you figure out how to do that.
That's a really good bit of advice. That's like hugely important as well. I'm looking at the solve here, right? For 25 and L rate, two big blind open cut off, 10 big blind raise, small blind. There is so much mixed folding, it's disgusting.
Yep.
Tens is mixed folding, right? Tens is a three-way mix. The only hands that are just pure call and don't mix anything else, the only hands that are pure call are king queen suited, ace queen suited, and ace jack suited.
Yep.
Those are the only pure calls.
Yep.
Everything else will pure call fold. Sorry, will mix call fold
Yep.
or pure raise like aces or whatever, and then have some call raise. So like king jack suited is a three-way mix. Ace 10 suited is a three-way mix that has some folds. Fours through tens has mixed folds. Ace queen off mixed fold. Ace jack off mixed fold.
Yep.
Queen jack suited pure fold. Queen 10 off mixed fold. All of these things, there's no way people are doing that.
No.
There's just absolutely no way people are folding tens, nines, eights here.
And in real
Seven.
life, it's not a mix because like one line is worse than the others for you. And if you four
Yeah.
bet here, as long as it's like a player that's got enough three bets, like you're going to be absolutely fine because the money's going to flow in your direction. They're not going to jam that much. They're going to, okay, they will overjam some hands, but those are likely like good hands, like aces and stuff. Then they're going to call the four bet and they're going to play meekly and passively in the four bet pot, just like you would play in the three bet pot. That's how humans are in this node. So if you want to play, let's take one of those hands that mixes, right? So you want to play ace queen off here and you've not studied the three bet pots, you could build a game plan where you just always four bet ace queen off here, especially in fast fold, and like nothing's gonna happen to you, and money's gonna flow in your direction far more than calling unstudied. Now, if you study post flop and you develop a really good game plan, maybe you can make call higher EV than four bet, maybe, and maybe you can make it higher EV than fold with this hand even, maybe, who knows? But if you don't know what you're doing, and maybe you do, Max, know what you're doing after the flop. But if you haven't studied it and you haven't got a good game plan, don't just call and play the spot on autopilot.
Yeah, hope to hit two pair or anything. Yeah, it's just we're just talking to people in general. This will have to be my last hand, unfortunately. So
That's fine. We are going to wrap this one up. These streams will be about an hour, by the way, guys. They'll be every Thursday. We're just getting set up today, doing a kind of pilot of the show, talking through some hands. If you want to get your hands reviewed, go to the stream section of our Discord group if you're on there and drop us some hands or DM me on Discord and send me some hands and you can be on next week's show.
I'd love to talk about like mental game stuff as well.
Yeah.
So any doesn't have to be hands. I do enjoy talking about all that.
Definitely we could get guests on in future. We could figure out like different formats. You guys can let us know. But the idea is we just meet up and we hang out every Thursday afternoon for a while and see how it goes. So we call C-bet here. You'd raise. Let's talk about that then. Interesting.
Yeah, because I think that people with overpairs, they're just going to be 50 plus too often and just B30 their bluffs too often. And I think 9-8 is vulnerable. It also has some we also have equity if our raise is called. So yeah, I think this is very often just autopilot B1 range bet block.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm gonna you can even just like click this if you want. Go like 2.5 x.
It's a really hard spot for them to do anything about. This is in Cash Injection, by the way, part of the Silver Carrot Corner. This is episode, I don't remember, but like one of the first 5, I think. And it's just about like clicking back 3-bet pots. And it's so hard for someone that just bets all of a small blind 3-bet range here, or even like, even if they're not eliminating the overpairs from their range by going bigger with those, which they might be, as Sam says, even if they're not, it's still so hard for them to react to this because the correct reaction to somebody who clicks back flop in this spot with hands like this on the regular is to just start jamming a mix of your overpairs and your ace kings and your semi bluffs and stuff like that and your big cards. But people are not going to jam king queen on you or ace queen or ace king on you when you raise to 18 here. Like it's going to be almost unheard of. So you can raise fold with quite a lot of confidence that the ranges draws higher equity draws and overpairs, which you don't mind raise folding against. You're not sacrificing that much equity.
And it's wonderful when he folds King Jack of Hearts
Yeah,
as
the
well.
denial here is huge. Like against King Jack of Hearts, like people underestimate how good it is to make them fold that hand in this spot. Because
Yeah,
if you call, there are multiple ways you lose. You lose when you're bluffed because it turns a queen. You lose when you're bluffed when like some other run out comes. And you lose when they get there. You just
yeah,
lose so many ways, and you never really win anything against. You don't have implied odds against hands like that. You don't. You very rarely hit something you can value bet. If you hit a 9, good luck value betting that board against their turn checking range in this pool. If you hit an 8, that's a bit better, but it's 2 cards. So yeah, the fold equity on the flop's pretty good here. Are we doing a full database with filter, or can you send a number of interesting ones? Yeah, send a if you want to send a folder full of like just really interesting ones in your opinion. I think you'd be good at like picking those out, Jim, and we could talk about them. That'd be good. So we hit 2 pair in what is now like the most blood from a stone spot ever, I would imagine, against their range here. They usually have nothing. Occasionally, though, they do have like a scared over pair or something like that, and then they have the odd slow play, but hardly any, let's face it. So what are we doing with 2 pair?
P50 block, something like that. Um, Similar to the spot before, they can be checking sort of overs without the spade a lot. So there's still hands that could call us.
Mm-hmm. And if we check,
Um,
the bluff frequency is going to be very low on river here, I would imagine, on this board. So I'm down for betting. Yep. I'm okay with this.
yeah, fine. Touch big, but yeah. All right.
Cool. Cool, cool.
I mean, we shouldn't be in the hand in the first place, but um, I'll give it another 5. I would raise the flop.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just like marking it compared to how I would play it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you haven't played them badly. I haven't seen any blunders at all. Like, I haven't seen anything that's like, oh, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
you're
no,
playing
no, I agree. I think Max Radio's game is pretty good. It's quite solid. It's maybe
a bit shy.
it's maybe lacking like the next step, which is just like
Yeah,
seeing the golden opportunity to harvest more EV than normal from a spot and just finding the line that's a little bit more out there and
yeah,
profitable but not on your radar. So I think the stuff that's on your radar you're handling well, Max, but you need to expand your radar in certain cases to get those blips and find those lines are a bit further out of your normal radius. So we'll see you back here, Sam, next Thursday. We do this every week. We will do some more hands from different stakes and we'll take it from there and see how cat and carrot develops. Where's the cat, by the way?
oh, he's in his little he's got a little cubby hole here
Yeah, yeah.
next to the table.
When they get him on stream next time. All right, guys, we're back tomorrow morning with Shu. She's going to become the polar bear, 8 a.m. UK time. Don't miss it. Gonna be checking some flops and delayed c betting some turns. Check out Carrot Corner for other stuff. This is the part where we thumbs up the audience.
Good play.